The Haunting Bride. In the heart of an ancient village shrouded in mist and shadow stood St. Marcellus Church, a crumbling relic of a forgotten age. Its once grand arches now housed only echoes of whispers and creaks of the wind. The villagers avoided it, claiming it was cursed by the sorrow of a bride who met a tragic end. Clara was the loveliest maiden in the village, her smile as radiant as the dawn. She had fallen in love with Thomas, a charming but mysterious outsider who had arrived in the village the previous spring. Their whirlwind romance captivated everyone, and when Thomas proposed, the church was chosen as the site of their union. On the day of the wedding, Clara stood in the church, dressed in a stunning gown of lace and pearls. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, Thomas was nowhere to be found. The guests began murmuring, pitying Clara, whose joy turned to anguish. Hours later, a messenger arrived with grim news. Thomas had been found dead in the woods, his body horribly mutilated. Some whispered it was the work of wolves, but others believed something far darker had claimed him. Overcome with despair and betrayal, Clara climbed the church's bell tower. There, under the pale moonlight, she cast off her veil and threw herself from a ledge. Her body was discovered the next morning, her gown soaked in blood. From that day on, the church was abandoned, as whispers spread of her ghostly figure roaming the grounds. Decades later, the tale of the bride had become a chilling legend, told around campfires and during storms. Few dared to approach the church, but a group of teenagers, fueled by curiosity and skepticism, decided to investigate. Armed with flashlights and bravado, the group, Mark, Lucy, Jenna, and Alex, ventured into the dilapidated church one moonless night. As they crossed the threshold, an unnatural chill greeted them, and the air seemed heavy with the weight of unseen eyes. The faint scent of decayed roses lingered, and their footsteps echoed ominously. Lucy shivered. "This place is wrong," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't chicken out now," Mark scoffed, though his bravado faltered as the sound of faint sobbing reached their ears. The group followed the sound to the altar, where a single candle flickered despite the absence of wind. Jenna gasped as a figure emerged from the shadows, a bride in a tattered gown, her veil trailing the ground. Her face was obscured, but her voice was a broken melody of sorrow. "Have you seen my groom?" The group froze in terror, unable to answer. The bride stepped closer, her movements unnaturally smooth, as if she floated rather than walked. "Leave her alone," Mark finally shouted, grabbing a pew leg as a makeshift weapon. The bride turned to him, and for the first time, her veil lifted. Her face was a hollow void, her empty eyes staring into Mark's soul. He screamed as the others bolted, but Jenna stumbled and turned back to help him. "Mark!" she cried. But by the time she reached him, he was gone. Only his flashlight remained, flickering weakly. The survivors fled the church, their hearts pounding in terror. When they returned the next morning with the authorities, the church was empty. Yet carved into the altar was a chilling message: "He promised me forever. So will you." Months later, villagers reported strange sightings near the church. Shadowy figures, the faint sound of wedding bells at midnight, and Clara's mournful whispers carried on the wind. The teenagers who survived never spoke of that night again, but scars on their wrists, like skeletal fingers, hinted at the terror they endured. To this day, Clara waits, her sorrow twisted into an eternal rage, haunting the church and claiming anyone who dares disturb her.